69-18, again is referred to the Chairman of Legal Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regular course with a referral to the Director of the Board of Health, the Fire Chief, and the Building Inspector, and we also need to vote on a hearing for June 25th, 2018 at 6:45 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, sir, the recommendation read for regular course with referrals to the Board of Health, the Fire Chief, and also the Building Inspector, establishing a hearing this evening for 6/25/18 in the council chambers at 6:45 p.m. All those in favor of the hearing, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the hearing's been established. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Petition, thank you. Petition 70-18.
7018 National Grid, Central Street. Install one singularly owned pole on Central Street beginning at a point approximately 20 feet west of the center line of the intersection of 1155 Central Street.
70-18 is referred to the Chairwoman of Public Service.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regular course, we need to establish a hearing for 6/11/18 at 6:20.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regular course on 70-18. We're going to be establishing a hearing on 6/11/18 at 6:20 p.m. in the council chambers. All those in favor of the hearing date, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, the hearing has been established. Thank you, Madam Chair. 71-18.
7118 National Grid and Verizon New England Incorporated, Grant Street. Install one jointly owned pole on Grant Street beginning at a point approximately 370 feet northwest of the center line of the intersection of Central Street and continuing approximately 16 feet in a north direction.
71-18 again is referred to the Chairwoman of Public Service.
Again, regular course with establishing a hearing date for June 11th at 6:25.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilors heard the recommendation read.
Mr.
Yes,
President, I'm going
Counselor.
to be abstaining from 71-18.
On the record, Councilor David Cormier will abstain. Thank you. Employer, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Councilors heard the recommendation read on 71-18 for regular course and to establish a hearing for June 11th at 6:25 p.m. in the council chamber. All those in favor of establishing the hearing date, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 8-0, regular course has been given, along with establishing the hearing date.
Mr. President,
Yes.
if I could, request that the clerk get an update on the double poles that we got around the city. I don't think some of them that we thought were coming down
Excellent.
haven't.
Great.
So before we give them permission to put them up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That may be not only a letter, but 2 or 3 phone calls to make sure the right person gets it. Okay, so we'll work on that. We'll work on that. Thank you very much for bringing that up. We now move on to appointments. We have one on Council of Aging. I'll refer to the Chairwoman of Ways and Means. Oh,
First time
excuse
on the
me.
agenda.
First time on the agenda.
Okay, Council on Aging, Larry Giannakis Senior, term to expire April 15th, 2021.
Now refer to the Chairwoman of Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regular course, and we will ask Mr. Giannakis to come down here for an interview.
Okay, an interview. We'll establish that for the next meeting. Very good, thank you. Okay, we're now going to move on to matters before the City Council, and before we move into the regular scheduled agenda, I'm going to yield the floor to the Chairwoman of Ways and Means, the first individual of the Historical Commission. Madam Chair, you ready to report?
Yes, I am, Mr. President. We had Mr. Ronald Gerard here this evening. He is an appointee for the Historical Commission with a term to expire April 15th, 2021. Mr. Gerard certainly exhibited quite a bit of knowledge, passion, and ability to participate within the Historical Commission, and I feel that he will certainly be an excellent addition. So I would be very, very pleased and honored to grant his appointment this evening, and I will go to my committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield the floor to the clerk, Councilor Frida.
I agree.
Thank you. Third member, Councilor Dombrowski.
I agree.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do you have a report for the committee?
I do, Mr. President. It is unanimous that Ronald Gerard should be appointed to the Historical Commission.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Council, sir, the recommendation read for the confirmation of Ronald Gerard to the Historical Commission, term to expire April 15, 2021. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, this will be a roll call vote for confirmation, beginning with Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Ottinger.
Yay.
Councilor Bonanza.
Yay.
Councilor Feckley.
Yay.
Councilor Shalafo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Dombrowski.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
I shall be recorded as yay by a vote of 9-0. we're going to keep him for a long
Yeah,
time.
yes.
Congratulations, thank you. Thank you. You're awesome. I'll now yield the floor back to the chairwoman of Ways and Means for the second appointee before the committee.
Okay, this evening, we also had Wendy Weeks before us, appointee for the Board of Health, the term to expire April 15th, 2021. We certainly know about Wendy's work ethic, and she explained to us this evening that as much as she loves her work for the city of Leominster that she performs now, she would like to try to infuse something else into what she does for us, and she certainly has the experience. She has experience in regulatory rules and regulations from her time working with Senator and then Attorney Antonioni. So pending, I'd be more than pleased to recommend her appointment, but I believe that would be pending our passage of C-65 next week.
Right.
So with that in mind, pending the passage of that C-65, which is the conflict of interest, I would be very pleased to recommend that Wendy Weeks be appointed to the Board of Health, and I will go to my committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield the floor to the clerk, Councilor Frida.
I'd be ready to support this tonight, but I can wait a week if that's what I want to do.
I'll yield the floor back to the chairwoman for
If-
qualification.
Well, I would need qualification whether or not we need to pass C-65 before we could appoint her.
It appears as though you can, if you wish to confirm this evening, you can,
Okay,
pending that,
Right.
the qualification of the petition that was forward in
Right.
our next meeting.
right, that was my intent.
And that's the
Yes,
intent.
yeah.
So your recommendation is to pass tonight,
Yes.
and then it's pending the confirmation, the qualification.
Yeah, we would take the vote tonight, and it would be
Okay.
pending the passage. Yep.
Okay.
Good. Third member, Councilor Dobrowski.
No, I'm in favor of that.
Madam Chair?
We have a unanimous recommendation to appoint Wendy Weeks to the Board of Health with a term to expire April 15th, 2021, and we will have a confirmation vote, but it also will be pending passage of Communication 65.
Correct. Thank you, Madam Chair. Council, sir, the recommendation read for the confirmation of Wendy Weeks to the Board of Health, term to expire April 15th, 2021. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Frida.
Yay.
Councilor Dobrowski.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Feckley.
Yay.
Councilor Bonanza.
Yay.
Councilor Odenger.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
I shall record as yay by a vote of 9-0. Wendy, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Okay. I'm also going to deviate. We're going to go to page 5 of the agenda. We're going to deal with 59-18. This is a petition before the chairman and committee of legal affairs. Does the chairman have a report?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. President. Petition 5918, James Whitney and 10 registered voters. Amend the zoning ordinance to add drive-through to the allowable uses under MU1 zoning. We had a public hearing tonight. One of the recommendations was from the planning board director, where she indicated that the preference of the planning board would be to amend this to allow the use by a special permit of the planning board. So initially, I would make a motion to amend 5918 to be allowed by special permit of the planning board.
Do I have a
And I'll
second
that.
by a legal affairs committee
Second.
member?
Second.
I'm sorry, Council Bonanza. I saw the hand first. I apologize. Everybody's on it. That's a good thing. Council, sir, the recommendation to amend as stated by the chairman of legal affairs. Are there any questions or comments on the floor? All those in favor of the amendment, please indicate by saying yay.
Yay.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the amendment has taken place. Mr. Chairman, do you have a report on the amended petition?
I do. I'd first like to note that the hearing, the petitioner had indicated that he had no opposition to the amendment. My recommendation would be to grant petition 5918 as amended, and I'd ask you to poll my committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilor Frida, the clerk.
I agree with that.
Council, thank you. Council Bonanza, the third member. I agree. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please state for the committee.
The unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee is to grant petition 5918 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard the recommendation read to grant 59-18 as amended. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Odenger.
Yay.
Councilor Bonanza.
Yay.
Councilor Feckley.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Dobrowski.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
I shall be recorded as yea by a vote of 9-0. 59-18 has been granted as amended. Thank you. If there's no objection, we'll move back to the agenda as planned. Okay, let's see. All right, we should be on page 4 and 64-18, where we're dealing with Ways and Means and Veterans Affairs. Is the chairwoman ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. If there's no objection, I can do the 6418 and 6518 in block.
Thank you.
6418 Mason's Bowling Center, renew the license for 24 bowling alleys at 650 rear North Main Street. 6518 Joanne Atwood, renew the second-hand dealer's license for the Repair Place, Inc. at 100 Commercial Road. Both of these petitions were referred out to the Police Department and the City Treasurer's Office. Neither had objection, so I would recommend that they be granted, and I will go to my committee.
Floor to Councilor Frida.
I agree.
Councilor Dobrowski.
I agree.
Madam Chair.
We have a unanimous recommendation for the approval of 6418 and 6518.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilors heard the recommendation read to grant 6418 and 6518 in block. Are there any questions or comments on the floor? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by saying yea.
Yay.
Yay.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0. 6418 and 6518 have been granted. Thank you. We now move on to Legal Affairs Petition 39-18. Is the chairman ready to report?
Mr. President, I have a conflict with this
okay.
particular one.
Thank you, thank you. So noted, Councilor Dobrowski is not involved with 39-18. I'll yield the floor to the Clerk of Legal Affairs, Councilor Frida.
Thank you, Mr. President. 39-18, Prime Wellness Centers, grant a special permit to build a medical marijuana cultivation facility located at 1771 Lot Drive. We have a continued hearing for June 11th, 2018. So the recommendation is further time.
Thank you, Councilor Frida. Councilors heard the recommendation read for 39-18 for further time. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? The only question I have is, are we going to get that question that was raised regarding the distance? Will that be answered for this meeting?
It should be.
It has been qualified.
I believe the building inspector has investigated that.
Okay. I'm going to ask the councilors on legal affairs to make sure you feel confident that that's the right answer. Okay? For when this comes up. Thank you.
We're right on it.
Thank you. So further time on 39-18. Any comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 8-0, 39-18 has been given further time with a continuation of the hearing scheduled for June 11th, 2018 in the council chambers. Mr. Chairman, you're back. 40-18, are you ready to report?
I am. Thank you, Mr. President. Petition 4018, Kristen Kelly, Planning Director. Amend Article 18, Section 22-105 of the Leominster zoning ordinance to include language regarding recreational marijuana facilities. We have a hearing scheduled for June 11th, 2018. Accordingly, the request is for further time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard a recommendation read for further time on 40-18 with a continuation of the hearing. Are there any comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 40-18 has been given further time. Thank you. We now move to page 5, 41-18. Is the chairman ready to report?
I am. Thank you, Mr. President. Petition 4118, Kristen Kelly, Planning Director. Amend Article 11, Section 22-60 of the Leominster zoning ordinance to add language requiring deep observation hole testing for stormwater infiltration detention areas. We had a public hearing scheduled for this evening. That public hearing was continued to June 11th. We'd be requesting further time at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, sir, the recommendation read for further time on 41-18 with a continuation of the hearing for June 11th, 6:30 PM in the council chambers. Are there any comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by vote of 9-0. Further time has been awarded. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
We
you.
now jump down to 62-18. Is the chairman ready to report?
I am, I think we can probably do these two in block, if
Can.
there's any objection.
Any objection? Thank you. 62-18 and 63-18.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Petition 6218, Mark C. Bedanza Esquire, amend Section 13-77 of the Leominster Municipal Code by adding a stop sign for southwestbound traffic on Commonwealth Circle at the intersection of Exchange Street. Petition 63-18, Mark C. Bedanza Esquire, amend Section 13-77 of the Leominster Municipal Code by adding a stop sign for northeastbound traffic on Revolution Drive at the intersection of Exchange Street. I do have a letter dated May 7th, 2018, from Richard Kinney, the Leominster Police Department. I think this is the only recommendation we've gotten. We're waiting for the city solicitor. Why don't I read this into the record?
I think you did the last meeting.
I did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe so.
Okay, so unless anyone objects, I won't read it in this time. I think if we're waiting for the recommendation from the city solicitor, the request should be for further time, but I'll ask you to poll my committee.
I yield the floor to the second member, Counselor. Go ahead.
I think to stay consistent, we should give it further time, unless there's a time
No.
issue with it.
Is there a member, Counselor?
No, I think we need to.
Okay.
There's
Okay.
no other choice.
Okay, so the unanimous recommendation is to give further time to petition 6218 and 6318.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor, sir, the recommendation read to take 62-18 and 63-18 together and give them further time awaiting a recommendation. Are there any questions or comments on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by vote of 9-0. Further time has been awarded to the Chairman of Legal Affairs, Ways and Means. Also, nice job tonight. Thank you. We now move on to finance. Beginning with the financial report for the city. Is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. I'll start first with the excess and deficiency account, our free cash, which was recently approved at $9,732,293. With all of the appropriations either passed or pending, those total $9,601,119. And as of this evening, that would leave a balance in the free cash account of $131,174.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Turning next to the stabilization fund, we began the fiscal year with $14,517,855. We've increased the fund by an appropriation in the prior meeting, and the current balance of the account as it stands now is $15,061,952.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We appreciate that. We'll begin with communication 54. Are you ready to report?
I am. C-54, relative to the appropriation of $4,000 to the city council expense account, saying to be transferred from excess and deficiency account. We have a letter from our city clerk dated April 26th, 2018, to the mayor. Dear Mayor Mazzarello, I'm requesting an additional $4,000 to the city council advertising account. This year, we've seen an increase in the amount of zoning amendments, special permits, and ordinance changes which require publishing in the local newspaper for both hearings and final adoption. The current balance in advertising account is $2,468.87, of which $1,684.87 has been already been spent in the month of April, leaving a balance of $783.99. I anticipate the cost of advertising to be at least, if not more, for the months of May and June, and the publication of the completed ordinance, zoning amendments, and budget hearings. Please do not hesitate to contact me with any questions. I'll just ask you, Mr. President, to check with my committee members, but I would be in favor of this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield the floor to the clerk, Pauline Cormier.
I'm in favor.
Third member, Councilor David Cormier.
I agree.
Mr. Chairman.
The unanimous recommendation of finance is to grant C-54.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard the recommendation right to grant communication 54. Are there any questions or comments on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by the vote of 9-0, Communication 54 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, in order that the sum of $4,000 be appropriated to the city council expense account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard that recommendation read. Again, are there any comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the order's been adopted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We now move on to Communication 55. Are you ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-55, relative to the appropriation of $150,000 to the ITTF expense account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. We have a letter from Bill Mitchell, who is headed up this ITT account, or ITF account, which is infrastructure and equipment. He gives us a history. This is in a letter dated May 9th. In fiscal year 2014, the council appropriated $200,000 for a public safety project. This was intended to replace outdated equipment and virtualize more servers to cut down on the amount of equipment needed for the police and fire department computer infrastructure. Since that time, we have spent over $100,000 on miscellaneous equipment that failed, such as switches, air conditioning units, servers, backups, etc. As it stands, we have $125,132 left in this account. I think he means the equipment that was replaced failed. In fiscal year 2016, the council appropriated $225,000 for the city's server upgrade project. This was intended to update 2003 servers across the city and purchase software that is no longer supported for the infrastructure operations. Since that time, we have replaced domain controllers, disk failures for our storage area network, new devices for backup, multiple switch replacements, etc. As it stands now, we have $773,646 left in that account. We also applied for a grant to upgrade and virtualize our building software and services with Munis. We were awarded $63,000 for that intent. We have to spend the money prior to July 1, 2018. And this is the project that is now proposed. The city is still in need of replacing outdated equipment and software that continues to fail. The city also recognized the need for long-term goals so that we can become more financially responsible with our IT vision and footprint. The Information Technology Task Force, along with Clearcom IT Solutions, Inc., developed a plan that accomplishes the reduction of equipment, lower management cost, extensive backup solutions, and redundancy emergency failover. The plan would include placing 3 large servers at the police department, 3 large servers at City Hall, and 4 large servers at the Emergency Management Agency. We would essentially virtualize 32 servers down to 10 physical servers. Create our own backups at Emergency Management, along with operation failover from City Hall and police to Emergency Management in a case of a large disaster. Summary. The city's ITTF chairman worked with the purchasing agent to develop and send out a request for bids for the above-mentioned project. The lowest bid to accomplish this project was $507,004.27. The appropriation of $150,000 before you accomplishes the gap in funding between what is left in the balances of the previous appropriations in the lowest bid proposal. This appropriation is needed as soon as possible to award the contract and spend the $63,000 in grant funding before it is lost. Please let me know if you require any additional information or have any questions regarding this appropriation as soon as possible. Attached to his letter is are the bid documents with the base bid price by the contractor in the amount as stated in the letter, $507,004.27. It would be my position to grant this evening, and I'll have you check with my committee members.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield the floor to the clerk, Councilor Pauline Cormier.
I think this is well needed. I am in support.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor David Cormier.
I agree.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. President, the unanimous recommendation of finance is to grant C-55.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard the recommendation read to grant Communication 55. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0. The petition has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, order that the sum of $150,000 be appropriated to the ITTF expense account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, sir, the recommendation read for confirmation on the order to be adopted. Are there any comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the order's been adopted on Communication 55. Thank you for the report, Mr. Chairman. Communication 56, are you ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-56, relative to the appropriation of $94,600 to the School Choice Revolving Fund, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. This is the result of an error that occurred when accounts were closed out at the end of the year. There are two accounts involved here. One was the room tax, and the other one was the School Choice Revolving Fund. Apparently, they were reversed. So as it turns out, one was labeled, they were both labeled the wrong way. The room tax money goes to the general fund, and the School Choice Revolving Fund account, when closed out at the end of the fiscal year, goes back to that revolving fund. So what happened was the room tax, which was $99,603.75, was labeled school choice, and the school choice account, which totaled $194,180, was labeled room tax. So the delta between the two belongs to the schools, and this communication is intended to fix that error and put the $94,600 where it belongs, back in the school choice revolving account. And I'd ask you to poll my committee members.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The clerk, Councilor Pauline Cormier.
I'm agreed.
Third member, Councilor David Cormier.
I concur.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. President, the unanimous recommendation of finance is to grant C-56.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, sir, the recommendation read to grant Communication 56. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the communication's been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, in order that the sum of $94,600 be appropriated to the School Choice Revolving Fund, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, sir, that recommendation read. Are there any comments? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yea.
Yay.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the order's been adopted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Communication 57, are you ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President, C-57, relative to the appropriation of $5,000 for the municipal building capital outlay expense account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. We have a letter from Dean Mazzarella, the mayor, dated May 10th, 2018, regarding demolition/asbestos removal costs. Dear members of the City Council, I would appreciate your support of an appropriation of $5,000 for costs related to the demolition of 3 buildings. Earlier in 2017, the City Council appropriated funds for the demolition of 10 Wells Court, 160 Mechanic Street, and 222 Mechanic Street. As you know, the demolition of these old buildings is always a challenge, and estimating exact cost is almost impossible. All 3 of these buildings have been taken down, and I think you will agree that has made a significant difference in the neighborhood. The $5,000 request is due to higher than expected cost on 2 of the buildings for asbestos removal. In addition to the success of the demolition, our efforts have brought us 2 additional grants, one for the design of a park located at the corner of Mechanic and Laurel Street, and one for the construction of the park. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor. It would be my position, Mr. President, to grant C-57. I'll ask you to poll my committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The clerk, Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Agreed.
Third member, Councilor David Cormier.
I agree as well.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. President, the unanimous recommendation is to grant C-57.
Council, sir, the recommendation read to grant Communication 57. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the petition has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, order that the sum of $5,000 be appropriated to the municipal building capital outlay expense account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, sir, that recommendation read. Are there any comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yea.
Yay.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the order has been adopted. To the Finance Chair and Committee, thank you for all your work. We now move on to public service, beginning with petition 66-18. Is the chairwoman ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. Before I begin, I'd just like to acknowledge Councilor Zarella for visiting us in our chambers tonight. I know
Great
it's
to
not
see
in
you.
that capacity, but nice that you can hear we have $9 million that we had in free cash.
Used to have.
Yeah.
Barbara Richardson et al., accept Garfield Street as an accepted way. We have a couple of recommendations back that we do not have planning or our city solicitor. I will read these into the record. Ms. Lynn Bouchard, city clerk, petition 66-18. Dear Lynn, the Leominster Department of Public Works has reviewed this request and offers the following comments. The applicant needs to submit a plan and a deed description of what is being asked to be accepted. A couple of questions need answers. Who owns Garfield Street? Do the applicants have the ability to transfer the fee or an easement? Please let us know if you have any questions. Sincerely, Raymond Racine, DPW Director. And the second one is from the Building Commissioner, Peter Nile, dated May 23rd, 2018. Members of the Legal Affairs Committee, which should be Public Service. I'm in receipt of a communication dated May 17th, requesting my recommendation on petition 66-18 to accept Garfield Street as an accepted way. I am not in favor of adopting this petition, as Garfield Street does not meet the city's minimum requirements for a road. If you have any questions or need further information, please feel free to contact my office. Sincerely, Peter Nile. As I said, we are waiting for the planning board recommendation and also the city solicitor recommendation. That's up to the council president. He has a question, but I don't know what he wants.
We can't recess it.
Okay.
I'm
All
sorry.
right. I can talk to you after.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for
All right,
understanding.
so the recommendation, and I'll poll the committee, would be further time.
I'll yield the floor to Council Ottinger,
Yes, I agree.
Council Pauline Cormier,
I agree.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Unanimous recommendation is for further time.
Council, sir, the recommendation read on 66-18 for further time. Are there any comments or questions? Councilor David Cormier.
Thank you very much. I think it's been quite clear in my time down here that if anybody has a pet peeve about unaccepted streets, it's me. And, you know, I think I'd ask the question, I know we didn't refer it to the mayor originally, and I'm wondering if we should. And also in asking Copeland and Page for their recommendation or their response to this, if we can't, you know, get the deed conveyed to us, you know, what's the feasibility for taking this eminent domain? That would be something that the mayor would have to weigh in on. So
Okay.
I'm just wondering if we should ask, you know, that question as well.
Okay.
Because I'm not confident that we're going to be able to get a deed.
Through the chair,
Through
can
the-
you consider that?
Yeah, through the chair, we are awaiting response from Copeland. We've sent them asking for their recommendation. And I'm not so sure about the mayor. I mean, we can send it to him. I'm not sure, you know, what his involvement would be. I mean, a fee in the street is clearly the only person that can transfer it is people that own it, you know? But sometimes both sides of the street go to the middle if the developer didn't keep that fee in the street. So it depends on how that original development was done, and whether the developer is even there, or how, I know other streets that I worked on in the past, we've done it when work, each property can give up a certain amount of land in front of their property, or however it goes to the middle of the road, and then if everybody's in agreement, I know the mayor has done it, or the DPW, if there's more than 2/3, I think, agreement, or 80% agreement on the street, and there's a shared cost on getting the road accepted. So I think Ray Racine would be the one to ask that,
Right.
and maybe with the attorney, they can check with the DPW and have a conversation with him.
Right, because I'm just thinking through the chair,
Sure.
I'm thinking, this is an old, I mean, a fairly old street. This wasn't developed recently, right? I mean, this is, I'm sure there's nobody out there that can convey the deed unless they own half the street on each side, you know, the neighbors,
Through the chair, that's why it's important that the neighborhood be involved
right?
and deal with the issue. And sometimes it gets a lot of work because they need to go to their bank sometime, depending on what the amount of land there is. You have to go to the bank and get a certain portion released. Some banks will do it, some banks won't. So, I mean, there's a process that's involved, but it can be done depending on how, you know, how strongly the neighborhood feels about it, so.
Right. Council Bonanza?
I think.
I'm sorry. Council Cormier, you're all set?
Yeah, I'm good,
Okay,
I'm good,
Council
thank you.
Bonanza.
I think what it will ultimately come down to, as these always do at this juncture, is someone needs to do a title. So, in order to determine if in fact the abutters own to the midline, or the abutters don't own to the midline, that has to be established by way of a title examination. And it may be the easier case, and if it's a relatively short street, I believe. If they own to the midline, you know, the complication, as Councilor Frida well knows, would be getting all the lending institutions to cooperate in it. But if they don't own to the midline, then the question is, who owns it? And even though the road was created a long time ago, people have heirs. So it can be established. And you may be able to find the heirs or whoever is the owner, but none of that can be determined without a title examination. So the question is, who's going to do that?
Madam Chair, just food for thought.
Yeah, that would be the neighborhood that has to do that.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay.
So,
If I may weigh in,
yeah,
the building inspector mentioned that the road is not in compliance with specifications.
but he didn't elaborate, so we need to
Well,
go
we
back to
need-
him
I
and
think the
ask him.
neighborhood needs for him to be specific and also be in line with the DPW's ruling on that. If it could be off inches, as far as the width is concerned, or something that's easy to mitigate. So if we can find out on that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, will do.
Okay, it's gonna take a little time from this angle. So the recommendation,
I know Councilor Bedanza's on board. Councilor Dombrowski, you, further time?
Public service, right?
Yeah, I don't think I'm on that
public
committee.
service is
Oh,
gonna
I'm
be.
sorry.
I'm sorry, Council Odinger, Council Cormier, you're on a lot of committees.
I'm still on.
That's all right,
legal
that's
affairs.
okay.
That's what I
Councilor
thought.
Hardinger.
That's all right.
Yeah, all
Council
right. I think
Dombrowski
it's
was
already
ready to
been
weigh in on
unanimous.
that, don't worry. He's on a lot of committees too. Council Odinger?
Yes, further time would be
Okay,
appropriate.
Council Pauline Cormier?
I agree.
Madam Chair? Okay. Council, sir, the recommendation read for further time on 66-18. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation for further time, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed by a vote of 9-0, further time has been awarded. 67-18 is a chairwoman ready to report.
Yes, Mr. President, 6718, Jill A. Natola, accept Lexington Circle together with the water line easement as shown on the street acceptance plan in Leominster, Massachusetts, prepared for the Sheldon Hills Realty Trust by Hannigan Engineering Incorporated, dated March 15, 2018. Again, we're also waiting for the city solicitor's response on our question for that as well. But the building inspector, dated May 23rd, members of the Legal Affairs Committee. I'm in receipt of a communication dated May 17th, requesting my recommendation on petition 67-18 to accept Lexington Circle together with the water line easement as shown on the street acceptance plan in Leominster, Massachusetts, prepared for the Sheldon Hills Realty Trust by Hannigan Engineering. I'm in favor of adopting this petition because the street meets city standards. If you have any questions or need further information, please feel free to contact my office. Sincerely, Peter Nile. And from the Office of the Planning Board, Lynn Bouchard, City Council Petition 67-18, Jill A. Natola. Dear Ms. Bouchard, at a regularly scheduled Planning Board meeting on May 21st, 2018, the Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval of the above referenced petition, the acceptance by the City of Lexington Circle together with the water line easement as shown on the street acceptance plan. The planning board has confirmed with Leominster DPW that the roadway has been completed to their satisfaction and is shown on the approved subdivision plan. Please contact me with any questions or concern. Sincerely, Kristen A. Kelly, Director of Planning and Development. So we are still waiting for the city solicitor on that. All right, DPW is also weighing in. Dear Lynn, the Leominster Department of Public Works has reviewed the petition to accept Lexington Circle as a public way and to accept the water line easement as an easement. The DPW approved the petition as submitted. Please let us know if you have any questions. Sincerely, Raymond Racine, DPW Director. Again, we're still waiting for the city solicitor, so the recommendation will be further time as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Council, sir, the recommendation for further time on 67-18. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? Council Bonanza.
Yeah, I would just ask the city clerk to make sure that the city solicitor's office has all those positive recommendations when they do their work. I think those would all be important and relevant to them.
Good point, thank you. Any other comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of further time for petition 67-18, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, further time has been awarded. Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll now move on to city property. We have petition communication 53. Is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, I am, Mr. President. Thank you. C-53, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requested the property known to the assessors as MAP 302, Block 1A, and located on Jungle Road be declared surplus. We had a public hearing on this meeting, and there were two items that we were looking for. One was the appraisal, and the other was a request for proposal, information on the request for proposal, which is due on June 18th. So I'd recommend further time until June 25th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, sir, the recommendation read for further time on communication 53. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? Council Bonanza.
I just wanted to point out again that if the RFP solicits a desirable response to the city, that it, by its terms, the contract can't be awarded unless the city council approves it. So we will, one of the things we discussed at our committee meeting is we will have more than just a theoretical proposition in front of us. We'll have an actual offer from somebody that we can evaluate before
Excellent.
making a final determination as to whether to declare the land surplus or not.
Excellent. Thank you for bringing that up. Again, Council, sir, the recommendation for further time on communication 53. Are there any questions or comments? If not, all those in favor of that recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by vote of 9-0, further time has been awarded. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going to move on to the third appointee, Mr. Tyler Yelian, before Ways and Means. Is the chairman ready to report? Chairwoman ready to report, I'm sorry.
I am, Mr. President. We had a request from the mayor for a volunteer to the Office of Emergency Management Rehab Unit, Tyler Yelian, 83 Tolman Avenue in Leominster. We did have a recommendation from Charlie Coggins, the director. I will read it for the record. Dated May 9th, Dear Mayor Mazzarella, with this letter I am requesting the appointment of one new volunteer to the Office of Emergency Management. He is as follows: Tyler Yelian, 83 Tolman Ave, Leominster, Mass. Tyler has had the opportunity to see our rehab unit in action. His father, Jeffrey, is currently a volunteer in our rehab unit. Tyler is eager and willing to help out wherever he is needed. He's looking forward to learning and giving back to his community. He has been interviewed by the OEM Assistant Deputy Directors and myself and was found to be worthy. A query has been run and he does not have a court record. Thank you for your consideration of this request. Sincerely, Charlie Coggins, Director of the Office of City Emergency Management. So with that recommendation, Mr. President, I would myself recommend that Tyler Yelian be appointed as a volunteer for the Office of Emergency Management Rehab Unit. And I'll go to my committee.
I yield the floor to the clerk, Councilor Frida,
I'm sorry, what was the recommendation?
to confirm.
To confirm the appointment.
I still think you ought to come in for an interview. I mean, other people take the time to get here. I just kind of feel strongly we should stay consistent.
Well, the reason why I did, and then we've done this before, this is maybe the third appointment that we've had, because they have been vetted so heavily by the OEM. They've been interviewed, and I mean, I take Charlie Coggins's recommendation very highly. But if it's something that's very important to you, that's fine, we can do that.
Counselor Frida? Good.
Yeah, I'd rather interview him.
I yield the floor to the third member, Counselor Dombrowski.
I respect the counselor to my left's position. I'll
Okay.
go with that, that's fine.
Okay. So your recommendation would be,
Well, further time, I guess, to
Okay.
interview.
okay.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, for reconsideration or to restate their position?
Yep, without doubt, further time.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll
Counselor
ask him
Sir,
for an interview.
thank you. Counselor Sir, the recommendation read for further time on the appointee. Are there any, on the candidate, are there any questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, further time has been the direction for the emergency management appointment. And if, Madam Clerk, if you can set up an interview, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. We now move on to old business. We have a second reading of an ordinance, formally petition 21-18. Is the Chairman of Legal Affairs ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. Second reading of an ordinance, amend Chapter 13, Section 13-66.6 of the revised ordinances entitled Senior Citizen Parking by rescinding Section 13-66.6 in its entirety. We had a public hearing earlier this evening, and the recommendation is to adopt the second reading of the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, sir, the recommendation to adopt the second reading of this ordinance. Are there any questions or comments on the floor? If not, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Odinger.
Yay.
Councilor Bonanza.
Yay.
Councilor Feckley.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Dombrowski.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
I shall be recorded as yea by a vote of 9-0. The second reading of the ordinance has been granted. We now move on to the next second reading of an ordinance, formally petition 22-18. Is the chairman ready to report of legal affairs?
I am, Mr. President. Second reading of an ordinance, amend Chapter 13, Section 13-88 of the revised ordinances entitled Left Turn Prohibition by inserting Albert Drive northwestbound to Central Street southbound. Again, we had a hearing on this second reading of the ordinance earlier this evening. The recommendation is to adopt the second reading of the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard the recommendation to adopt the second reading of the ordinance. Are there any questions or comments on the floor? If not, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Frida.
Yay.
Councilor Dombrowski.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Feckley.
Yay.
Councilor Bonanza.
Yay.
Councilor Odinger.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
I shall be recorded as yea by a vote of 9-0. The second reading of this ordinance has been adopted. We now move on to another second reading of an ordinance, formerly Legal Affairs Petition 25-18. Is the chairman ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. Second reading of an ordinance, amend Chapter 13, Section 13-79 yield signs by inserting Litchfield Street facing drivers on the exit to Litchfield Street from Central Street northbound, and Litchfield Street facing drivers exiting Litchfield Street heading southbound on Central Street. Again, we had a hearing on the second reading of the ordinance earlier today. The recommendation is to adopt the second reading of the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard that recommendation read to adopt the second reading of this ordinance. Are there any questions or comments on the floor? If not, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Odinger.
Yay.
Councilor Bonanza.
Yay.
Councilor Feckley.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Dombrowski.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
I shall be recorded as yea by a vote of 9-0. The second reading of the ordinance has been adopted. Mr. Chairman of Legal Affairs, we'll now move on to a second reading, formally petition 36-18. Are you ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. Second reading of an ordinance, amend Chapter 13, Section 13-40 of the revised ordinances entitled 1 hour parking between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. by deleting in its entirety Central Street westerly side, beginning at a point 120 feet south of Union Street, southerly, for a distance of 205 feet. Similarly, we had a second reading of we had a public hearing on the second reading of the ordinance earlier this evening. The recommendation is to adopt this second reading of the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard that recommendation read. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Counselor David Cormier.
Yay.
Counselor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Counselor Odenger.
Yay.
Counselor Bonanza.
Yay.
Counselor Feckley.
Yay.
Counselor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Counselor Dobrowski.
Yay.
Counselor Frida.
Yay.
I shall record as yea by a vote of 9-0. The second reading of the ordinance has been adopted. Mr. Chairman of Legal Affairs, second reading of the ordinance, formally petition 37-18. Are you ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. Second reading of an ordinance, amend Chapter 14, Section 14-21 of the revised ordinance entitled Ingestion of Medical Marijuana on Public Property by deleting the current text in its entirety and inserting in its place a new Section 14-21 entitled Consumption of Marijuana or Tetrahydrocannabinol.
Well, very, very well said.
I've had a lot of practice.
You're getting
We,
close.
Better and better at it.
We, again, we had a public hearing earlier this evening. The recommendation is to adopt the second reading of the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, sir, the recommendation read to adopt the second reading of this ordinance. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Counselor Frida.
Yay.
Counselor Dombrowski.
Yay.
Counselor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Counselor Feckley.
Yay.
Counselor Bonanza.
Yay.
Counselor Odenger.
Yay.
Counselor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Counselor David Cormier.
Yay.
I shall record as yea by a vote of 9-0. The second reading of the ordinance has been adopted. Mr. Chairman, we now have a second reading of an ordinance, formerly Legal Affairs Petition 42-18. Are you ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. Second reading of an ordinance, amend Chapter 13, Section 13-77 entitled Stop Signs by inserting King Avenue against westbound drivers at Stewart Avenue. Again, we had a public hearing earlier this evening. The recommendation is to adopt the second reading of the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council heard that recommendation read. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Counselor David Cormier.
Yay.
Counselor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Counselor Odenger.
Yay.
Counselor Bonanza.
Yay.
Counselor Feckley.
Yay.
Counselor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Counselor Dombrowski.
Yay.
Counselor Frida.
Yay.
By a vote of 9-0, the second reading of the ordinance has been adopted. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Update on Police Station LHS Athletic Complex. It will never end until we put the shovels in the ground. Police station's going well. Again, Mr. Mitchell is involved in negotiating on a parcel of land that we will hear about later on. And also the athletic complex is getting closer to an engineering plan finalized on modifications to be able to take care of many of the needs that were raised. We're hoping to see something happen with that by the end of this month, May. So as soon as it's ready, it's going to take some time after that, as we know, but at least we'll be able to see a plan. Any questions on those two items? Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Thank you. On the athletic complex, Council Bedanza and I have been involved in at least two, I think, site visits and maybe
Yes.
additional meetings with the neighbors about that.
Yes.
Do you know, have the neighbors been involved at all? I mean, in the
the
most
neigh-
recent, in the most recent draft, or is this a new version?
My last conversation with Anthony Cleaves from Whitman and Bingham
Right.
was that he was working on things like lighting, the driveways, the privacy type of pieces that were raised by the neighborhood. And what was happening is he was working with other engineers that were trying to modify the plan. And he indicated that the plan will be ready probably by the end of this month for them to see as well. So it's not like it's just gonna, that's the end of it. I would
Right,
imagine at
right.
that point, the neighborhood will be brought back in for confirmation on what, or qualification of what their needs were, if they were met or not. Absolutely.
All right, good, thank you.
Anything else on that, Council Bonanza, you want to add?
No, I think that's accurate, and that would make perfect sense given the involvement in the neighborhood.
Okay, good. Good question. Thank you. We'll just wait a second here. If everyone can get the letter out from Brian Riley. Okay, the next item. Okay? No, it's okay. Allergies and colds and, I know. I'm the same, we're all this, yep. Yeah.
Mold.
Don't say that. Say that. Okay, under new business, we have one item listed on the agenda. It's a review of an open meeting law complaint filed by James Whitney, discussion and response. The piece that I saw in the letter that I just want to strike, and the process will be, we can have some dialogue on it, if there's anything that we need to put in the letter or extract from it, and then we have to take a vote on whether this is going to be forwarded as accordingly. It will be forwarded to the attorney for the Director Division of Open Government, Office of the Attorney General, 1 Ashburn Place, Boston, Mass. The one piece that I believe is not part of our rules here as the council is actually the paragraph near the end, the last sentence. And Mr. Riley put in there, it should also be noted, the calendar item is listed to give councilors an opportunity to raise issues, comma, community announcements and concerns that are not on the agenda and not anticipated by the president. I think that we've been through this before as a committee, as a council, and that's really not a place to be putting anything up there. That's why we have new business and old business, so if we wanted to deal with anything, that's where we would post it. I do agree with him that that's where we try to put our minds together at the beginning of the meeting to bring in some of the things happening in the community, so that's what the community calendar is really all about. Old business and new business would be accolades, we could work it in there somewhere. For example, like Memorial Day, if there's things that have to be said, that's not a problem. We think about it as we come in here for the evening. Other than that, for example, I have a letter that I got today from the business manager, from the superintendent of schools office. I'll put that on the agenda and then refer to the chairwoman of schools, and then she can read it at her discretion, and we can have a discussion on that if you desire to have one. But other than that, I don't think that, the rest of the letter is pretty black and white, but I would like the council to strike that area in the community calendar.
I think,
Council Bonanza, you have the
I'm
floor.
sorry, I think if
No.
you just take out the word issues
Okay,
before community announcements, and the words or concerns after the words community announcements, I think you accomplish your goal.
perfect. Madam Clerk, can you make sure you take care? Yeah, please.
On that second to the last line of the second to the last paragraph,
Right,
starting with the word opportunity, strike the word issues, and then after community announcements, you'll see the words or concerns, strike those two words.
right. So it's just a community calendar is for sharing things happening in the community.
announcements.
Okay. Anyone else want to weigh in on that? Council Frida?
I guess the only thing, and I can't remember, maybe somebody else would, I thought I got my letter at home.
This letter here,
No, not
This-
this one,
the
the one
letter,
about Jim Whitney. I thought I got
You got
mine
it,
at home,
and-
because it
yeah.
addresses getting it just before
okay.
the meeting.
If we can, first of all, not use that name, and what we'll do is we'll just use the complainant, for example. I don't remember getting, if I can say, I don't remember getting it home. I remember coming to the meeting and it was in my paperwork.
Right.
And I read it for the first time as we were getting ready for that meeting that night.
I
from this
agree, we did have it here.
Okay.
I'm just trying, I really can't remember, but I thought I
Yeah.
opened one at home.
You may have, but I don't recall getting anything like that at home. I
Councilor
remember that one.
Cormier is.
Counselor Cormier,
I believe that I received mine at my home address as well.
you did the home address?
Yes.
Okay. All right,
Through-
Counselor, I'm sorry, 1 second. go
Through the
ahead.
chair, that's the only reason I'm bringing that up is
Right.
I don't want this to say, we just got it before the meeting, if that's not the case, because we're not, it won't change anything, but it's not truthful if we got it at home.
We, sometimes the communication that is sent may be inconsistent with the fact that it's sent to every single standing member on the council. And sometimes we find out that a letter came in and it was intended for each one of us, so it was sent to our homes. But it may not be shared in an open session, so unless we communicate that with each other. I got one on a previous hearing that we had, and I thought that the gentleman who sent it to me because I know him. And then after discussion with him after the meeting, he asked that it now be a formal letter read into the record, so I'm gonna submit it to Legal Affairs, for example. I don't recall getting anything at home, so there might have been, you may have raised the point that, inconsistently, some councils were notified of this beforehand.
All we'd have to do is take out along with the other members, which I think
Right.
he's saying. On the second paragraph,
Okay,
where it says, Counselor Shalfo Zephyr along, I think he means along with other members.
Right?
So if we just take that off, it's in parentheses anyway.
Okay, does anybody have an objection to striking that? Let me raise that question first.
I-
You have an objection to striking that?
I don't, but I just want to confirm that I did not get the letter at home.
Okay, I
but
did not
that I
either.
Received
I
it here.
didn't either.
Okay. Counselor Shalfo Zephyr's had her hand up, go ahead.
Right, no, I did not get it at home either.
Okay.
And mine is date stamped May 14th, which was the morning of our meeting.
Right, and so that's probably the same one that I got.
Yeah.
Most of us got a copy of that. Okay, Counselor Feckley, you had your hand up?
Right, I also received it on May 14th, date stamped May 14th, the morning
Right.
of the meeting, so the first I saw of it was when I picked my
Okay.
mail up that day.
So if I can pose a question on the
Well,
record,
But I have another point.
if I could just pose a question on the record before you bring the next
Yep.
point up. How many councils received the letter via mail at their home that can qualify it? 2? Okay. Okay, so a couple. So most of us got the letter when we came here for the first time. Okay, Counselor Feckley, you have the floor.
So I'm not sure that we need to strike that, because it says, as stated above, Counselor Shalfo Zephyr, along with other members, received the letter. It doesn't say all members, along with other members,
Just
received the
gonna
letter
add
in
with.
question.
Along with some other members,
Yeah, I
some
could
other
say some of the members. I don't
Some
think we
other
need to strike it,
Well, you modify it,
modify it. Yeah,
I would,
along with most other members.
along with the majority of the other
yeah,
members.
we could even say
Yeah.
that.
Okay. We'll make a note on that. We'll check the revision before it's actually forward.
Yeah.
It's actually gonna go back to Brian Riley,
Okay,
and he's gonna give us the next letter. And you're all gonna have a chance to see it before it's actually sent at that point.
Is there a time frame when this has to be?
For so many days, 14 days?
14.
Well, how are we gonna see that
Electronically.
before the, right, because it won't be before the next meeting.
No, it's gonna be
Right, right.
hopefully by the end of tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah. We need to move on this,
okay.
with the meetings in between, so. Okay, is there anything else in there that has to be, excuse me, revised or extracted? Councilman Dabrowski, you go with it?
Yeah, I'm good with, along with a majority of the other members, making that correction.
Okay,
And did we confirm that it was brought up during the community calendar? Did we
Yeah.
confirm that? I don't recall whether it was new business or
Yeah.
community calendar, I just don't recall.
you remember, Counselor?
I do remember, and I'll have to go back and look at the tape.
Yeah, it seems to me
But
it's near
it
the
was,
end
I
of the meeting.
raised my hand, and you had said we were moving on to community calendar, and
Yeah.
I remember saying, well, this isn't really community calendar, it's really,
Okay, so.
New business.
So if you said that, that's fine. That's fine.
Right.
It was a community calendar, it was before that under new business.
right,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
But it
I
still
made that
wasn't listed
distinction.
on the agenda, and
That's my memory as well, and
Yeah.
I just think the letter should accurately reflect that.
Okay,
there
so
was
we
an
need to-
intention to
All right.
be heard under new business versus.
Okay,
community
two ways to do that. That would be in the minutes of the meeting. And the second way for confirmation would also be LTV review at the end. So we'll figure that part out. That's a great question raised.
I
Can
think
we
we're
get on
gonna ha-
that?
I think you're gonna have to do it on the video. I don't think
Yeah.
it's. gonna
Okay,
be-
the end of the
Yeah.
meeting?
It's just, no
Okay.
one would keep track of that.
Well, unless they did.
Yeah, unless they did, right.
There's some things in there. We had a hearing a couple years ago with someone who came down here and literally lied to us. We found that out.
Yeah.
That was in the minutes, So, okay, is there anything else on that, in that? Counselor Pauline Cormier, you are an attorney. You feel comfortable with this? I am. Okay. So, you got Counselor Cormier?
Yeah, I just want to kind of understand how we're all going to agree on what the final draft is if we're not going
well,
to meet again
yeah.
before the next meeting, because
We're
we
not.
can't all have a meeting through email.
Right.
That'd be
So-
another open
I mean,
meeting
that,
law.
otherwise
No.
we'd violate the open meeting law, talking
Violate-
about an
talking
open
about
meeting law
violating the open meeting
I
violation.
got you covered.
I mean,
So this is the way it's to be done, okay? We've heard about the revisions tonight. Those will be added to the letter that's going off to Copeland and Page. What's happening is tonight we have to cast a vote, and we need a majority of the council to agree or disagree. If it's agreed upon, the information with the amendments will be forwarded to Mr. Riley directly tomorrow morning. And then what will happen is he will send a revision out to each one of you to take a look at. We are not having a meeting at that point, but that's the piece that should basically be the verbiage of what we have discussed here tonight. So I think that should suffice. If someone has a major issue with it, you know, once we get it back, you know, what we'll do is we'll get back to him with it. For example, like the question raised of whether it was new business or on the community calendar, if we found out when he has a letter, he's not gonna send that letter out until we get it back. But again, it's a time-sensitive thing, so we have to make sure we get it out within that period of time. So are you clear, is the council clear on that?
No,
No.
I'm
Okay,
not.
so-
We all agree on the final letter
Well,
without
okay,
having
so
a
look at
meeting.
the timeline. The ideal world would be this. The ideal world would be, we suggest the revisions. We can't make them on a computer at this moment. We have some things we have to research tomorrow morning very quickly. And what will happen is that draft will go back to Brian Riley. Brian Riley will then take our suggestions and put it in writing, and we'll get a copy of that back. But we can't move forward tonight with anything, without anything for Brian Riley to do, until we give him a formal response as far as the amendments we need to make to it. So the idea would be, we're making some revisions in the letter. It goes off, and we agree to those revisions. Then they go off to Brian Riley. When it comes back to us, if there's strong opposition on a particular sentence or something that he said, there's really nothing that's changing from what we have in front of us tonight. It's just a question of a couple of items that we've brought up here tonight. And then at that point, the only thing we could do is have a special meeting and bring it back to the front and then vote on, and then it goes off. You know, we're trying to streamline the timeline. That's the problem. Council Bonanza, go ahead.
All right, so here's my question.
Yeah.
Who is going to review the tape and determine, I mean, I'm not sure it is even substantively relevant
Right.
to his letter in the open meeting law question that's presented by this.
I agree.
So the one change that we initially looked at is innocuous.
Right.
Okay? The second one, I think, was looked at really for the sake of accuracy.
Correct.
So someone has to look at that and then
Right.
report to Brian Riley what actually happened.
Right.
Again, I'm not sure it even matters.
Right.
But someone, I think for the sake of accuracy, we should get that correct,
Right.
okay? Once Brian is advised what to do by our vote, if we take one tonight, there's nothing else. I mean, he can send it to us as a courtesy, so we can see the final document, but there's no other further council action unless we had a special meeting. So what I would suggest, I mean, I'm really, to be quite blunt, I don't want to come back here to figure out what the tape said so we can make this change, which I think is not even relevant.
I understand.
So couldn't we just vote to accept the letter
Right.
with the change that was recommended in the next to the last paragraph, as well as authorize either the city clerk or somebody to suggest when it was raised in the
Right.
meeting, and leave it at that?
Right.
Is that appropriate?
I think that's pretty much what the council president has been aiming on. Yeah, that's what you've been trying to say.
Not really. He's
that's what I heard.
suggesting, well, he's suggesting to us that, and I'm not trying to be argumentative.
understand. I
But you're
appreciate it.
suggesting that we're gonna get it, and then we're gonna have the ability to do something if we don't like it. And I'm not sure that we wanna go there. We need to vote tonight, don't we?
Well,
Mr. President.
the question of the new business calendar will take less than 5 minutes in the six-hour meeting. And that's just looking at the end of the DVD or the CD. You know, we can probably run that when the business hours begin tomorrow morning and confirm that. So we could send the letter off, let him work with it. He may not be able to even get to this tomorrow anyway. And then if we make that change in there, whether it's significant or not, we can still have time to make the change. But we do have to vote on something tonight, unless we have to come back. Councilor Dombrowski?
Yeah, I respectfully disagree. I mean, I think it's important. My memory is consistent with Councilor Zephyrs in that there was an intention expressed to bring this up under new business.
Right.
So if that intention was expressed, then I think it's a horse of another color. It was brought up under new business. If that's the case, the amendment to the second to the last paragraph, we should leave to raise issues or concerns, substitute new business for community calendar, and then delete community announcements and leave in raise issues or concerns that are not on the agenda.
If
You know, it's one or the other, I
it was
guess.
brought up, it was brought up on the new business, the last
like the
sentence of
reverse.
the last paragraph isn't
Right.
even necessary. Just take it out.
I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know.
on it, yeah.
Read it.
You're saying.
There's no reason for it.
In the,
Well,
in
no,
the
but you
case
would
of at
substitute
hand.
new business,
Right.
so it would read, it should be noted that the new business item is listed to give counselors an opportunity to raise issues or concerns that are not on the agenda and not anticipated by the president.
Fine, that's fine.
Yeah,
You know, if that's the case, I'm pretty sure it is, though.
I agree.
Yeah. And then all you gotta do is substitute new business for community calendar on the first page and add the majority of the other members. So I've conveniently doctored it up.
Okay, then you're gonna be conveniently working with the clerk on that, if we agree to it.
All right, I can do that.
Okay?
Yep.
Counselor Frida?
Yeah, I don't know that the position of the comment matters. I mean, I think he was just referencing community calendar.
Right.
I don't think I think he was just trying to say whereabouts in the meeting it was. I don't think it matters if it before or after. I think the fact that he's just pointing out where it was brought up. So I don't know if we're overlooking the community calendar piece.
My interpretation is he's qualifying the fact that it is not breaching the open meeting law, and he's using community calendar as his reference point, but in reality, he's wrong referencing community calendar in the way that he did, I believe.
I'm
that's why I'm
saying,
just trying
I'm
to clean
saying
that
the
part up.
complainant on the letter, if he did bring that up,
Right,
I think he was only doing it to say where in the
in the
meeting
meeting it came up,
that
yeah,
that it came up. I don't think
yeah,
the violation is implied by community calendar. I
right.
think it's just a
It wasn't
fact of where it is on the agenda.
okay. So let's, instead of beating this to death, because we may not really need to,
Right.
what is it, can I have a motion on the wording, either collectively or as an individual counselor, on what we want to strike or add from this? Counselor Bonanza?
Could I ask Councilor Dombrowski through the chair a
Sure,
question?
please.
I mean, do you have a firm memory of, I don't remember honestly. Do you have a firm memory that that's what happened?
I'm pretty sure that's what happened, yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean,
Do you have anything in the record?
I can't say I'm 100% positive, but I am pretty sure. I'm pretty
Could-
sure
could I-
that's what happened.
Mr. President, could I
Please.
recommend something?
Yeah.
Could we, first of all, I guess renew my question, who actually is going to review the tape to figure this out?
Well, the clerk has the tape from the meeting.
Okay,
We don't need LTV, you just go to the end of the meeting and listen to it,
okay.
right?
So could we come up with an alternative?
Yeah, why don't we give them two proposals, it's one or the other, so
one
give
or the
two
other.
Yeah.
proposals.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what's proposal one?
So I think proposal one, I think I've drafted. So the amendments to proposal one on the first page, second paragraph, where the parentheses are 3 lines down. Right now it reads along the other members, so I would insert along with a majority of the other members. And then also on that second paragraph where it reads the second to last line, it says community calendar in quotes, I would just I would strike that and insert new business in quotes. And then the second to last paragraph on page 2, 3 lines up, where it says community calendar in quotes, I would strike that and just put new business in quotes.
Right,
And then the second to the last line, I would, where it says opportunity to raise issues, community announcements or concerns, I would strike community announcements. So it would just
Right.
read to raise issues or concerns.
right. He's just referencing that,
Yeah.
that's all.
No, I know, but I just think that if that is what happened, I just think
Okay.
it's better.
All
So
right.
that's
I'm gonna-
option one.
That's option one. And then if that's not what happened, we go with what we initially talked about.
Which is just to make the change in paragraph 2 about the majority,
Yep.
along
Right.
with the majority of other members, and go to the, what I raised earlier with the clerk about taking out the word issues or concerns.
Correct. Yep,
So, that's your motion?
that's my motion. Well, that, depending on the clerk's viewing of the videotape, whether
Or the
this,
cassette.
this occurred under new business or it occurred under community announcements, depending on which one it is, then one of those versions we'll give to Brian Riley.
Right. What's interesting is that it either occurred under new business or it occurred before the community calendar. That's what we're looking for,
Right.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
All right.
We're
Right.
looking for an intent of what,
Right.
what it was
Yeah.
supposed to be.
right.
Right,
Yeah.
so I'll second that motion.
Okay. Council, sir, the recommendation, the motion read in a second. Do I have any further comments or questions on the floor? Council Shalfo Zephyr?
I guess I will abstain from this vote.
You don't have to. I asked.
Oh, good, all right,
You
then
can
I won't.
absolutely participate. You can say anything you want,
Mm-hmm.
and you can vote on it. Okay?
All right, good.
And that was qualified by, excuse me, John this afternoon,
Okay.
before the meeting.
Good, thank you.
Okay? Yeah, oh yeah, I made sure. You're covered. Counselor Feckley?
I just had one, on my agenda, I have a note that Legal Affairs set up the meeting that we had tonight. And my recollection is that, and I guess when we see the tape, it'll pick up, that Counselor Shalfo Zephyr went in after Counselor Dombrowski was done setting up the subcommittee meeting.
That's what we're looking into.
So that would be before the community calendar.
Yep.
And I think that what was happening was, I think she was trying to get your attention, so I think
Yeah,
before you
so
went on to
totally
community
fine.
calendar.
Hey,
So I
We
believe.
were into that
that's what's
session
gonna
between Ways and Means
play out,
in
yeah.
the meeting. We were into that for over 6 hours. It was
Yeah.
in Donnybrook.
Yeah,
But I absolutely respect that
yeah, but
statement.
that's my recollection
Yep.
of what happened.
So if I'm trying to go fast to finish, but there's still work to be done.
Right, sure.
Or a comment that wishes to be made. Okay? All right, anything else on that? Council Bonanza?
I was curious about this whole issue of unattested letters being received by government officials or the city, and I did a little homework. And it's clear that those documents are public records. They're not exempted under Chapter 4, Section 7, Part 26. And interestingly, Bill Ricker had a problem with this, where they were receiving a lot of those types of letters. And they passed an ordinance that said that they would be immediately put in the trash when they came in. And then Brian McNiff from the Secretary of State's office said, not so fast, cannot do. I would just probably recommend that we develop some kind of protocol to deal with that problem
Right,
in the
Yeah.
future.
right.
It's clear by charter, 3.6, that it says, in general, the city council may make investigations into the affairs of the city and into the conduct of performance of any city agency. So it would seem to me, by charter, we have the ability to look into things like that, if that's what we chose to do.
Correct,
But it would also seem to me that they should be placed on the agenda.
right.
And if they're going to impugn someone's character, under the open meeting law, we're not required to, we can keep that, we could do that in executive session.
Right.
If we had to. I just think in the future, we should tread carefully, that's all.
That's all. Well said. Hey, we're all human beings.
Yep.
We're exhausted.
It was a
We
long
do the
night.
best we can. We get tested. It's like an emotional roller coaster ride being an elected official from one moment to the next. We get people that pit one another against each other, and sometimes we get drawn in. Just like we do our own children and families, it's the same thing. It's hard. It's a difficult thing. The safety net is that we have each other and we have council rules. That's the most important thing. And I think that, the lesson I learned from the experience is that the council president should be a clearinghouse to work with. And if you have a question on something that you'd like to bring up, we know that even like the letter from the school department, I'll take the lead, I'll get it posted on the agenda, and then we'll deal with it.
I think we all got it.
Yeah, we did. No, it was a great letter. But I'm still taking that caution, to make sure it's done properly. Lead by example when it comes down to our communications. But we also know what our limitations are. And a lot of times people come to the podium, they call us, they stop by our homes, and they ask us to do things that are totally, inappropriate as far as us being able to deal with as an elected official outside of using us as a liaison or a mediator in the neighborhoods and also with the municipality itself. So we take that on. We take it on, and that's probably the driving force, especially, when you're dealing with issues in neighborhoods. But when it comes down to the letters that we get, let's just be careful with them and learn from it. Other than that, I think we just push on. We do the best we can. Any other comments or questions? A motion's been made on the floor by Councilor Dabrowski, seconded by Councilor Bonanza. Any further comments? All those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in a roll call vote. Let's do a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Odenger.
Yay.
Councilor Bonanza.
Yay.
Councilor Feckley.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Dabrowski.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
I shall record as yay by a vote of 9-0. We'll push forward with this issue. Thank you very much. Okay, I didn't see old business.
Yeah.
Okay.
All the-
I'm gonna take a step back. Is there any old business before the council? Okay, new business before the council. Any new business? All right. Counselor, you have the floor.
Just going to schedule a legal affairs subcommittee meeting for June 11th at 5:00 PM. And that's
Perfect.
going to be joint with the planning board,
But what time are you gonna start?
5:00.
Okay, great. 5 o'clock?
Yep.
Okay, good. While we have you here for our meetings, we're gonna,
Oh, the same thing that was on today.
today, same thing. Finance, we're gonna be setting up subcommittee meetings pretty soon. You're gonna weigh in on who should be coming down and
Yeah,
who needs to come down.
I'll work with the clerk on that this week.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. Okay, anything else under new business? We'll now move on to community calendar. I'm gonna just give a couple of things out. Correct me if I'm wrong, there's a summer stroll happening downtown on June 11th, correct?
9th,
I'm sorry.
June 9th.
I'm looking at, yeah, June 9th. Okay, so that's a Saturday, June 9th. We also have Starburst happening, the 26th annual Starburst event at Doyle Field, and that'll be happening on June 16th. High school graduation right around the corner. I want to take a moment to thank Rick Voltor, Jolene Constant, and also our guest MC, former Veterans Director Richard Early, for doing a spectacular job. All the groups are involved, the Blue Star Mothers. We heard a lot of different groups involved here. A special thank you to John and Pauline Roberge. I believe this is the first time on Memorial Day that the Jonathan Roberge Memorial Park was brought into it. It was awesome. It didn't take a lot of time. When we left there was still 45 minutes to an hour, so there's plenty of time to do what we needed to do. I also like to thank Councilor Pauline Cormier, Frank Oninger, Mark Bonanza, Claire Frida for speaking this year. It was very heartfelt what you said, and we really appreciate it. If I'm elected next year as the council president, the ones that didn't speak this year will speak next year. So we just rotate it so everybody has a chance, with the exception of me. Special, shout out to the Leominster High Band. Aren't they amazing? Yeah, rain or shine, they're gonna be there, right? Just amazing, just amazing. I know Councilor Dave Cormier was pretty heartfelt with the Songbirds this year. Again, all right, did a nice job.
Yep.
We saw Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, the staff at the Evergreen Cemetery and in all the different cemeteries in town. It hasn't been a pretty spring to be prepping for this, and they did a great job. And also, the clergy that participated, all the people that came out, it really makes you proud, to be in Leominster. And sometimes when we share what this city does to recognize Memorial Day and our veterans, it's a little different in some of the other communities we find out, don't we? So congratulations on all of that. Are there any other items on the community calendar? Councilor Bonanza first.
Yeah, on June 7th, that's a Thursday at 7 o'clock, the Historical Society is hosting myself and Senator Lou D'Alessandro from New Hampshire. He's the longest-serving state senator in New Hampshire, and he's in a very unique position as a Democratic leader and deeply involved in presidential politics. He's literally a power broker nationally. When you run for president as a Democrat, the first person you see is Lou, because winning that New Hampshire primary is so important. So for anybody interested in that, I'm sure a lot of people can't wait till 2020. A lot of the Democratic contenders are already calling Lou. So if you want to meet the guy that is going to help pick the next Democratic nominee, come up to the Historical Society Thursday, June 7th at 7 o'clock. And he's a fascinating guy with an amazing life and a great story. So,
Fantastic.
Yep.
I'll be there with the camera, so I'll take a complimentary photo for each of you if you would like to. What you do is bring a mat, have him sign it, and then put the picture in afterwards. I figured that one out a long time ago. Okay, anything else on the calendar? Councilor David? Go on.
Yeah, just, just to touch upon Memorial Day again, I just wanted to thank the cemetery crew over at Evergreen and Pine Grove. These cemeteries are coming a long way from where they were a few years ago. I know that in the past, I didn't have such nice things to say, but I do have to say that they're working hard and trying to do the best they can with the limited resources that they have to, make the, I think there's probably more than 50 acres of land in Evergreen alone, to make it look presentable and to keep it up. And there's still work to do, but I know that the tree roots are a problem still and stuff like that, but hopefully we can keep making progress and moving the cemetery in the right direction. And I'd also like to see the mayor reinvigorate the cemetery commission again, too.
Great,
So,
okay, thank you.
thanks.
Bring it up with them. Okay, anything else? Okay, TD, welcome. New assistant clerk here. Yeah, congratulations, and thank you for being here. We look forward to working with you. Okay, all right, thank you. This meeting is adjourned, thank you.
The Leominster City Council meeting is brought to you by the generous support of the Service Oil Company, 345R Lancaster Street, Leominster, 978-466-1922.